I've noticed how people comment about how lucky I am to have my life together so young. It makes me laugh because for years that's all I ever wanted, whereas now I just know that that's so far from the truth. When I finished high school 5 years ago, I felt like I'd had the rug pulled out from underneath me. I went from being a big fish in a small pond to a really small fish trying to navigate the waters of the real world. Anxiety crept into my life slowly. It began as doubts within friendship circles and a loss of purpose. It eventually became a deep fear of social situations that drove a wedge between myself and the people that loved me. My sense of worth as a daughter, girlfriend and friend was compromised as I was convinced that nobody could love the frightened and stressed out person that I'd become. There was one time, maybe 4 years ago, after a particularly difficult few weeks, that my boyfriend had to carry me inside and he and my mum had to spoon feed me. I was so paralysed with fear. I felt like I was trapped inside a dark room and there was no way out and nobody could or would want to help me. But something has changed in the last few years. It's like Jesus has started to open a door, letting beams of light into the darkness. Jesus has reassured me that he won't let me go anywhere that he is not, that he wants to take on the burden of my anxiety and fear. I know my need for Jesus goes beyond my fear and anxiety. I know that without him we wouldn't be able to have a relationship with God. I'm so thankful for what Jesus did on the cross, but I love that I can go to Jesus with my day-to-day worries and anxieties. Recently I finished my degree, and in searching for a job I became dangerously close to fear and anxiety again. But this time it was different because I didn't need to have control. I knew that Jesus, who is bigger, stronger and smarter than me, had my back. My favourite verse in the Bible talks about Jesus being the hope and the anchor for our souls. With Jesus as the anchor, fear and anxiety have no place in my life anymore.
I'm not used to sitting around doing nothing, usually. My wife, Jenny, and I have 2 beautiful teenage daughters which keep us pretty busy, and I'm a senior executive at work, so there's no shortage of things for me to do. But about a year ago, that all changed. After undergoing some tests, I found out I had an aneurysm in my aortic artery, just near my heart. That meant I had to have open heart surgery, and it took quite a few months to get over that. And just as I was getting back on my feet, ready to go back to work, I was diagnosed with cancer. I have to say that the first few weeks of finding out about the cancer was one of the darkest periods of my life. I was scared and anxious. I remember joking with the specialist that the treatment that lay ahead of me for cancer is going to be a walk in the park, given I just had open heart surgery. It turned out I was really wrong about that. There were many times when I felt like I was completely abandoned, like I was walking this journey all on my own. But now that I look back at it, I can see that Jesus was bringing hope into my situation in many different ways. 85% of nose, ear, throat cancer patients have to live with a feeding tube up their nose, and quite often they'll lose their taste as well. I prayed that wouldn't be the case with me, and even though the odds were against me, Jesus really answered that prayer. I remember one day lying at home in bed, recovering from my cancer treatment, feeling weak and nauseous, really quite depressed at that point in time. And a friend sent me a text saying he was praying for me. And he said in the text, "There's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train coming. It's good news and health." Later on the same day, another friend rang. And I really believe in that situation, that was Jesus bringing hope and encouraging me. And in the end, there was light at the end of the tunnel. The PET scan showed that the cancer was in remission. So it had been a really long winter, but now the spring has finally arrived. I feel that Jesus provided light to help me see through the darkness, but also lighten my burden of despair.
Life is chaotic as a working mum of 2 young boys under the age of 4. Most days I'll be lucky if I got a pair of socks that matched. There's always laundry to be done, meals to prepare, kids to bathe, tantrums to resolve. and sometimes the repetitiveness of the daily grind can prove to be too much. I distinctly remember a time when Zachary was first born and we had to move to London to complete our training. My husband was working really long hours, often leaving the house before 6 in the morning and not returning past midnight. I was sleep deprived. I had just moved country to a place where there was little in the way of supports. And there was one particular day where I had been up all night, feeding and settling Zachary, and all I wanted in the morning was just a cup of coffee. Every time I put him down to sleep, he would scream, and he would scream literally for hours. I tried everything: feeding, patting, changing his diaper, taking him for a very long walk, but all to no avail. I remember sitting at my living room floor at 10 o'clock at night, having had nothing to eat all day, still in my pajamas, having nothing so much as a drink or my hair brushed. I remember the feelings of fear and inadequacy. In my desperation, I cried to Jesus. I laid all my fear, guilt, shame, and insecurity at his feet. I could feel that he could sense all that I was going through, and he could see my tears of desperation. These days my struggles are less acute. There are many days where I find myself picking up toys off the living room floor for the 10th time, steeling myself for yet another toddler tantrum. And often at these times, I ask myself what the point of it all is. At these times, I'm grateful to have Jesus in my life. I know that it's not just my husband and I who are raising our children, but that Jesus is watching over them all the time.
When I feel myself feeling shut inside that dark room, I have hope in Jesus, knowing that He's there waiting on the other side to bust down the door and to bring light into my fear and anxiety, showing me the way through.
Jesus helped me to see beyond my current circumstances and lifted my spirits in the time when I needed it most. He gave me hope.
I think that having a strong hope in Jesus takes some of the burden off my shoulders, for I know that I can always lean on His strength. Having hope in Jesus truly is the greatest gift.